Hello and welcome to CLS Live, a monthly live stream series presented by the publishers of Contact Lens Spectrum. I am Jason Jedlicka, your host for today's episode. CLS Live gives me the chance to chat with leaders in the world of contact lenses, finding out what's going on in the industry from their perspective and with their insights. We talk about new and future products, the latest research, worldwide trends in prescribing, and even bring you updates from the floor of contact lens conferences, as we will do next week. And speaking of conferences, we're going to take one more episode today to preview the Global Specialty Lens Symposium that's coming up next week with a member of the Program Planning Committee, Afe van der Worp. Afe is an educator, writer, and researcher. He runs his own research and education consultancy, Eye Contact Lens, based in Amsterdam. He received his optometry degree and his PhD in the Netherlands. He is on the education committee for a number of international conferences, including the Global Specialty Lens Symposium. Afe is an adjunct professor with Pacific University College of Optometry in Oregon and the University of Montreal College of Optometry. Afe, welcome back to CLS Live. It's great to see you again, as always.
Yeah, good to see you too, Jason.
So is this your second or third time on? I can't remember. Must be second.
Maybe third.
Maybe third. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
I'm just trying to kind of top the background you got there with
right.
the background.
Well, you always have the best. You always have the best view, so it's great having you on. If nothing else, for the background we get to enjoy. So the skyline from the Netherlands there. So again, welcome back, and we're going to talk about the GSLS, and in particular, I'd love to spend this time we have today focusing on the global part of GSLS, and that is the international perspective of this conference. And we talked a little bit before the show about how that was the one thing the first few years that I attended that really impressed me was getting this international perspective. We have ways of doing things in the States, but things are done a little differently in Europe or Asia or Australia and South America. And so this meeting really brings that to all of our attention. As mentioned, you are on the planning committee. And so tell me just briefly, and the rest of us, a little bit about your history with the meeting, how long you've been involved in your role with the meeting.
Oh, yeah, well, a long time, about over 15 years when Craig Norman got me involved. And it's funny you mentioned that, actually. That just came to my mind, Jason. So as you know, it first was the Global Orthokeratology Symposium, then it was the Global Keratoconus Symposium. We thought, well, both is pretty interesting. And then sclerals came along, and we had to come up with a new name, and the obvious name is Specialty Lens Symposium, right? And that's, a nice abbreviation with 3 letters. But Craig Norman insisted, and I agree, and I can laugh about it now, it had to have global in it. But then it has 4 letters. So although it may not resonate as well as it does with 3 letters, because GSLS is kind of a long stretch, it's almost like a big word in itself, it had to have global in it. And, well, Craig is such a visionary, and he was right, because for me and for many people, and I think includes yourself, the global portion is what it makes it so exciting, right? What it makes it so special. I learned so much from people from, well, just across the border here in Germany. They're very good at fitting corneal GP lenses, and they still do, and they still don't do a lot of sclerals. Is that good? Is that bad? Not judging here. It's just they're doing it in a certain way. And, well, we have people from Germany and from Switzerland at GSLS this year, so we can meet them in person and we can talk about all those things. And then, of course, South America, they always bring their very interesting flavors. Asia, of course, especially with the whole myopia session is definitely powered partly by the Asian influences. So, man, I look forward, Jason.
Yeah, and the research influence that comes from Australia and New Zealand, they've got great contact lens-based research that comes from down there. So, again, for someone who's never been to GSLS, I think, again, this is one of the things that I think is great, because like you said, even as we are more and more a global community of contact lens fitters, we all do practice a little bit differently. Sclerals are just getting to some parts of the world, and some places people still like their GPs, their corneal GPs more than other
Right.
parts. And that experience, when we share that, even if we're not doing a lot of it, it's going to give us a different perspective, and it's going to open our eyes to different ways of practice that we wouldn't get if we're with our own homogenous group of people.
One quick example, Jason. So obviously with social media now, you do get sort of access to other parts of the world that you wouldn't have. So I see somebody in Australia doing a reverse piggyback with a scleral lens. I was like, what the heck is that about? So you take a scleral, you put a soft lens on top to improve wettability and things. So, yes, but these people now quite literally will be at GSLS. So again, those kind of new stories and new developments we can, either share from the podium, or these people are in the room. You'll meet them at the bar, or, we'll have discussions during all the various sessions. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. So speaking of the international lecturers who are going to be at the podium, talk about a couple of them, or one or two, and what they're going to be presenting that may be a little bit unique to each of us.
Yeah. So as of last year, we came up with an international advisory board. So a group of, I think, 11 people from around the globe that advise me, and then I share it with the team. So they're literally from all across the globe, with the exception of the US, because that is pretty well represented. And what they are is they're basically our scouts almost, Jason. So I don't know what's happening in different pockets of the world, but if they learn some new research or a new name that we haven't heard about, because we always want to find new names, and I think especially this year, people will be surprised to see so many new names on the podium, young people as well. One of them is Marta Jimenez. She did her PhD with Karina Koppen, the MD that has been on our program a couple of times, expert in sclerals and keratoconus. And what Marta did, she's from Spain actually, but she did her PhD in Belgium, so making it very international here. She looked at keratoconus detection and especially progression, because for cross-linking that is so extremely crucial to know when to cross-link and when not to cross-link. But it's so complex because all these instruments give different numbers, and you don't know exactly what to go by. She combined all of them. I mean, mathematically, a huge puzzle, and she came up with a better way to follow the progression of keratoconus. So she'll be sharing it from the podium in a session moderated by Greg Denerer. So that's something I'm looking forward to for sure. But we have more.
Yeah, that is exactly what this meeting brings to me. Is it brings researchers and people who have the ability to study subgroups of populations in a more intense way that some of us can't, and they're going to share that with all of us, and we're going to take that back to our practices, and we're going to practice a little bit differently for each of those. So that again is a critical part of it, to know what people are looking at around the world and discovering. So speaking of research,
and then of course we have Nathan Efron this year from Australia. So he's our first keynote speaker. So Nathan always brings his own flavor, and especially with this topic, he will be debating the demise of the rigid lens with Ed Bennett. So US versus the rest of the world, if you want. But no, that's going to be really exciting. One other thing is that I am personally very happy that Jan Bergmanson from Houston is receiving the Award of Excellence this year. And maybe not a lot of people know that, because he sounds more Texan than most Texans, but he is actually Swedish. So a little bit of international flavor there.
Yeah, he has the very unique Swedish Texas accent. So, and I agree. I think that for anybody who is a follower or prescriber of specialty lenses, knows the history, the Efron Bennett debate should be very entertaining. and
Yeah.
lively, and just one of those moments that I think all of us will probably always remember, now and forever. So to be able to be there and witness that will be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting lineup, and we talked about research and the poster sessions,
Oh, yeah.
which has grown, of course, from the first meeting to today, just exponentially. Talk a little bit about the poster session. I know, in fact, I think you're going to even do a little live streaming from the poster session on Friday, bringing us some from the floor updates in the poster session. But talk a little bit about that and the size of it and the global perspectives there again.
Yeah, so big credits to Ed Bennett. He was always managing that, and when Ed stepped down, Jason basically gave it to me, and I looked at it as a huge mountain to climb. But I'm so happy now, to be honest, Jason, because it is so much fun. So this year we had 156 posters submitted, so that's a huge chunk. We have separated into research posters, clinical posters by ODs from around the world, and then residents, US residents at the school can or have to submit case reports. And it's well, not exactly, but it's pretty evenly split between these three. On the research, especially a very high international portion of that. And what we then do is we have 5, 6, 7 people again from around the world, and the international board I just mentioned. They actually contributed tremendously. They rate all the posters, and then we look at the best X%, and they are accepted. And then those out of those, we're going to look at who are the really, really, really best out of those, and the 5 best. They will present their work as a free paper. So we have 5 free paper presentations at the meeting. That would be on Saturday morning. And we have, so within the groups, we have different categories like sclerals and myopia, anterior segment, corneal GPs, and something with aberrations and optics. And we have 1 free paper from each category in that 1-hour session. So pretty cool stuff. And not just basic science, it's very clinical also. One, for instance, is about how to grade keratoconus in your practice, something like that. So that's pretty cool. On top of that, Pat Caroline and I, we handpick 10 posters that we really like, we think just need a little bit extra attention. And those 10 can present their work in 3 or 4 minutes from the podium. And that would be the rapid fire session. That would be on Friday morning. So 3-4 minutes, really quick. Purpose and conclusion. Next one. It's almost like a teaser for your poster. So we're making a big thing out of that whole poster session, but it's more than that. But it adds to the scientific, I think, backbone of the meeting.
Yeah, because there's so many people who are doing research or pilots or even just have clinical cases that can give all of us, again, useful information for our practices, but there's no time for everybody to present their findings from the podium and for between the posters. And then I love the rapid fire idea, again, to really highlight some posters which may have a lot of influence or practicality for a lot of clinicians, to make sure they get that exposure. And again, it just highlights how diverse this meeting is, from your general sessions where everyone's there getting the meat of the meeting, to the rapid fires, the posters, the sponsored sessions, the CE sessions where you have an option of 5 different courses to take to really make the meeting meet your own individual needs, whether that's I need to get up to speed on ortho K or sclerals or corneal GPs or whatever it can be. Again, and maybe you feel like I want to learn about some new products again. Again, the sponsored sessions where you're going to be able to go in depth and learn about some products that maybe you can add to your arsenal. I mean, there's such a diversity in this meeting. It's great.
Yeah, can I add just one thing to that, Jason? So, well, two things, if I may. So one, on the posters, what we're going to do different this year is that in the poster area, it's a different room, as you know, where all the posters are placed, and it was random. It was basically by submission date that you would follow the posters, but it could be anything at any time. It could be research or clinical. It could be ortho-K, or it could be myopia. Now we have selected them by group. So all the sclerals one will be in one corner, whether it's clinical or research or a student or a resident, but everything scleral is in one corner. And we want them to chat to each other. We want them to mingle and say, hey, you're finding this in clinical practice, but this is what I'm seeing in research, etc., etc. And then the next group is myopia, and the next, well, etc., etc. So let's see how that goes. But well, I think it could be good.
I mean, that's where inspiration comes from, right? Is we go to meetings like this, we talk to other practitioners who do kind of the same thing that we do, but a little differently. And we share ideas. We come back with I know I come back with a little notebook full of ideas for things that we can be doing differently or studying or looking at. So the inspiration that comes out of a meeting like this is really remarkable.
And then, sorry, if I may, Jason, that second point I wanted to make is, and you mentioned that already, I also really like the involvement of industry in our meeting. And so one thing I want to make really clear is that everything related to all the lectures, the CE lectures, and the posters are under CE rules. They are stricter than they've ever been. So there's no company logos anywhere. Nobody can mention products specifically from the podium, et cetera, or at least not on the slide. So that is very strict, which is good. I like that. On the other hand, I really like to go to the non-CE lectures where they do talk about products and say, well, listen, I got a new product here and it is about this and that. So the way if you go to the website and you look at the program, what they've done now, they've color-coded everything. Everything that is red, you see it on the bars, is a sponsored track. Doesn't matter. I love going to those. In fact, sometimes I learn more of that than in other portions. Everything that is purple is CE, breakout CE. So strict rules, no company involvement. Everything that is blue is general session CE, typically like in panels. And then everything that is gray is exhibit, and everything that's green is workshops. So you can prepare, but you know where you're going. So don't be surprised if you hear company logos and content and a red sponsored track, and the other way around.
Correct. Well, and again, the exhibit hall at a lot of conferences, it's a busy place, but I think at GSLS of any meeting, the exhibit hall is just very busy because we all have the opportunity to meet with those labs and companies that we work with every day. We get to talk to them in person. We get to catch up. And again, so it's a very busy, active exhibit hall, and it's our living room, absolutely right? Don't want to miss,
After the lecture or after whatever, you go to the living room. That's where everybody is.
That's right.
Love it.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're getting towards the end here. Let's talk a little bit about. So from an attendee, I see what I see, but you're on the program committee. You see all the work. I can't even begin to fathom the amount of work that goes into the back end of this. Give us a little perspective on what happens behind the scenes, something that you'd think would surprise us about the GSLS meeting.
I mean, all kudos to Laura Shepard. She is managing this whole thing. It's unbelievable, Jason. We started off small 15 years ago, and it just grew into this huge meeting. Just imagine how it is to manage 1,000 people. Every single one of them have special requests. Especially people from abroad, sometimes have visa issues. Unfortunately, some of our speakers as well. So they're dealing with all that. And then, of course, not to mention the hotels. And then nowadays, we want everything. We need all the presentations up front, Jason, because they need to be CE approved. So we have to go through all of these lectures before they go on the on the beamer, basically. So all that is a lot of work for Laura and the team. So compliments to them. And what else is new? Maybe good to mention this year is that we have daily hosts, moderators for the day. So we have our own Ashley Tucker. She'll be moderating the whole day, or hosting the whole day on Thursday. And international flavor, we have Oliver Wu from Australia doing the Friday, and then Canada. So I would call that international. Lyndon Jones, he is managing the Saturday. So what that hopefully does, and I really like this idea, is to give the whole thing more unity, I guess. It's not just different, snapshots of lectures throughout the day. One person is leading that whole day and making the best of it. So, I look forward to that.
I think it's a brilliant idea. And again, it never fails to amaze me, as good as this conference is, you guys seem to come up with new spins every year that just make it even that much better. And so again, I can't stress enough, if you are a contact lens minded person, if you like contact lenses, particularly specialty lenses, and you've never been, you're absolutely missing out. You need to get to this conference. So not only for the education, for the networking, for the inspiration, I mean, in every way, shape, and form, this is a meeting that, because it's so unified around specialty lenses, everybody there has the same interests. You really do have the opportunity to network with every single person there and share your interests and your ideas with each other, and come back motivated to do something different in your practice.
Amen.
So I'm going to say, because you are on the planning committee, and I mentioned this to Patrick and Ashley in the last episode, just putting a little idea for these great ideas you guys come up with, how you can integrate golfing into our conference for the future meetings. So work on that one, and we'll talk about that next time. Okay.
Golfing.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, with that,
we'll chat over that over a beer in Vegas next week.
Absolutely. Next week when we see each other in person.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to bring this episode to a close. Thank you again, A, for being part of the show, for your insights as a planning committee member, particularly with the international side. And again, the meeting's just a week away. I was just talking about this morning with someone, and we're both flying in a week from today. So we'll be ready to go by the 17th when everything starts. Registration is still open. It's not too late to get in on the education and networking. So if you love contact lenses, you absolutely need to be there. And if you cannot make it, CLS Live will be live streaming from the conference floor. So if you are following on social media, be sure to be looking for those live updates from the floor of GSLS. As mentioned, you're going to do one on the posters. I'm sure there'll be some other varieties of different types of live stream updates from the floor of GSLS. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And then on the back side of the meeting, we'll be back again in a month or so with Maria Walker, and we'll recap all the highs of the meeting, all the great talks we heard, all the research that was presented. We'll kind of highlight that for everybody and hit the high points of the conference on the back side. So look forward to that in February. And I hope to see as many of you as possible, though, in person next week in Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for doing this, Jason.
You bet.